Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of Driver Suit Blog Radio. I am your host, Dave Firestone. I was going to talk about driver suits becoming more ad-friendly in the 1980s and what led up to that. We're going to save that for next week because I couldn't ignore this story when I first got a hold of it. And then I got some more information. So we're going to continue the discussion about NBC Peacock and why they want to put a July race on it instead of, say, MSNBC or CNBC. And I didn't even consider this as a factor, but now that I have, it makes so much sense. And I got this from a weird way. I was listening to just some Jim Cornette audio clips as I was editing something for my other YouTube channel, DGF 2099 Productions. And one of the clips that I just had sort of on autoplay was Jim Cornette talks about Peacock losing money, and he threw out some numbers, and I will put a link in the description. Jim Cornette threw out some numbers about Peacock losing money, and I had to look this up for myself. Folks, I now understand why, so strap the hell in. So recently, Comcast, which is the parent company of NBC and NBC Peacock, released their numbers about Peacock's earnings and losses, and all I can say is holy shit. Because in 2021, Peacock generated $778 million, which is, in most cases, might not seem too bad, with an adjusted loss of $1.7 billion. Now, this is actually up on both sides because in 2020, Peacock generated $118 million of revenue and an adjusted loss of $663 million. And I'm also going to point out that all of these numbers are EBITDA or EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So Peacock ended 2021 with 24.5 subscribers, of which 9 million are paid. So in other words, there's 15.5 million Peacock subscribers who are either on the free plan, or if you're like me, we have a Comcast account and we get Peacock with no additional charge, the premium one. So 9 million, and they're paying $10, I think. What is it, like $5 a month? The point is, they're not doing nearly enough in paid subscriptions to make this viable. Now, I've been saying this for a while, but it's so much worse than that because this is Comcast's own admission, and then an executive actually made some comments. I'm going to read this. This is basically what he said. Comcast CFO Mike Cavanaugh said that the company plans to double the content spending for Peacock in 2022 to $3 billion and are optimistic that their annual budget will rise to $5 billion over the next couple of years, quote unquote. Cavanaugh then said, and I cannot believe he would verbally say something this amazing. He said that, yeah, but we're taking an EBITDA hit for the year of 2022 of $2.5 billion. How do you justify that? I mean, seriously. You're spending $3 billion to lose $2.5 billion. I mean, that's 83% loss. And in the 2 years that Peacock that I've been able to find out, I can't find anything for 2009, but in 2020 and 2021, Peacock made $896 million, lost $2.33 billion, and now they're ready to lose another $2.5 billion this year, and this project has to continue. Why? How do you, as an executive, hell, in any company, justify a loss of $4.83 billion over the course of 3 years? How do you justify that? And I don't want to hear, well, it's the cost of doing business. No. Even a janitor who has a third grade education could figure out that when you're losing $2.5 billion on a project, the project is not worth continuing. I'm sorry. I don't care what anyone says. You're not going to ever recoup those losses. Why do I say this? Well, let's look at what some of the unique Peacock-only content has. You have Bel-Air, which is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, a reboot of Saved by the Bell, a reboot of Punky Brewster, I can't even read this without trying to hold my laughter. A reboot of Battlestar Galactica, a series based on the Ted movies, a movie based on the Munsters, a reboot of New York Undercover, a spin-off of Law & Order called Hate Crimes, a spin-off of a spin-off of Days of Our Lives called Beyond Salem. You have a spin-off of Madagascar called A Little Wild. You have a spin-off of Trolls called Trollstopia, which might be one of the worst names I've ever heard. And then you have some really weird old programs like season 13 to 14 of Curious George, season 2 of the Where's Waldo show. Remember that from the 1990s? Most people don't. And only season 4 of The Real Housewives of Miami. Now, if it sounds like I'm not talking much about the other stuff on there, it's because it doesn't matter. It isn't worth discussing. Part of the reason that Paramount Plus is doing as well as it is, as compared to Peacock, and why Disney Plus is doing as well as it is compared to Peacock, is because both of them have several IPs which they create content for specifically. I mean, look at Disney Plus with Mandalorian and Marvel. Look at Paramount Plus with Star Trek and some of the others, including Beavis and Butthead, which is coming back soon, which I'm going to be honest with you, I might sign up for that. I really am. I'm that much of a fan. Peacock, it's all like reboots of sitcoms. And I forgot to mention the Frogger reality show, which is something that might have worked back in 1987, but this is 2022. How in the world are you going to justify this long term? And I'll answer that for you. You can't. At this point, Peacock needs to go away and be replaced with something better. I don't care how much you've put time, effort, and money you've put into this. Sometimes in life, you just have to cut your losses. I talked about the GM Volt. The EV1. The Volt is actually a successful car. The EV1 was a money pit where there was billions of dollars in today's money thrown into it, never to be seen again. And even they figured out after 2 years, okay, this just ain't going to work, and so they cut the program. Another one is the worst fast food debacle in history was the Deluxe line, which was headed by the Arch Deluxe. From 1996 to 2000, this cost the company about $300 million in research, development, advertising, and that's before manufacturing and all the other costs associated with it. So you're looking at a loss of, in today's money, maybe a $1.5, $1.6 billion. And that was for 4 years, and that doesn't even come close to Peacock's losses. I don't know why you are trying to salvage this or you're trying to make it work. It clearly isn't working, okay? And it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't see this working out long term. I don't even see this working out short term. I would be stunned if Peacock makes it to 2025. I'll be stunned. I don't see that happening, though, as this is nothing but a money pit that is never going to be filled. You don't have any, even if you had like even if you had a Despicable Me spinoff that was Peacock only, I could at least respect that because, okay, you've got an IP that you're working with that has a pretty dedicated fan base and is pretty well entrenched in pop culture. You're giving it your own show on Peacock. Okay, fine. That would work, no problem. If they were using all of their available IPs and coming up with new versions of some of them, that might actually work. What they're doing now is just, well, we're going to do the most minimal amount of work that we can, and we're going to see if this works, and we hope it does. Which is a great way if you're like me and you're starting a podcast. I mean, I don't envision this going anywhere, but I'm not doing this to make money. And I'm certainly not doing it to lose $4.83 billion like Comcast has just said they're going to lose on Peacock. I mean, how do you say something like that and just expect the investors to stay? And also, I also like to add that from the overwhelming majority of companies in this country, even some of the big ones, a loss of $4.83 billion over the course of 3 years would be devastating. And even if you lost, like in 2020, they generated $118 million and lost $663 million. Okay, that would be enough to kill off the project, period. But then it's like, okay, we made some adjustments. Okay, so we'll try it for 2021, and you made 778 and lost 1.7 billion. I don't even know why you would continue the program at this point. Most people don't either. Yeah, so that's why they're going to start moving stuff to Peacock, because they are, at this point, desperate. This is not optimism. This is desperation. They have sunk so much money into this, it's failing miserably, and they're going to do everything they can to get their money back, negating the fact that a lot of the companies, that a lot of the sports franchises that they might be able to sign are going to put up with this. They're not going to keep NASCAR long term. They're not keeping IndyCar long term. I'll be shocked if they keep IMSA long term. You know, some of the college sports, they're not putting up with this. I think NBC Sports might be done. They don't have a leg to stand on. They know it, and they're getting desperate. And I promise you, as the years go, as long as this is still a thing, they're going to get worse. Peacock is dead. No amount of time, effort, or energy can salvage it at this point. My advice would be to wait for the WWE contract to expire and then kill off the platform, because you have failed. I know that streaming is the future, but we're not at the future yet. Sometimes in life, you just have to cut your losses and move on. That's what I think of NBC Sports. That's what I think of Peacock. I'm sad to see a sports program with a lineage that it has go away, but it is what it is. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about the Clash. I'll be right back. So after that fun little rant about Peacock, I'm back. We're going to talk about the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum, which took place last weekend. You had qualifying heat races on Saturday, and the main event on Sunday. And I'm going to say this. I honestly, sincerely thought that I was in the minority when I thought that that the track wasn't going to be great. And this was a stupid move by not only NASCAR, but those involved. And apparently, come to find out, I actually was in the majority because a lot of people thought that this was not a great move. And considering the fact that the track was a quarter-mile oval where the highest recorded speeds were like in the 67-mile-an-hour range, I can't say that I'm shocked about that. I'm a long track fan. I don't really like short track racing myself, but there are a lot of people who wanted the Clash to be at Daytona. And I didn't think that much of the new track. I thought it was way too short. I mean, when you have a race with 40, what was it like? It was in the 40s, I think, the number of cars that were there. When you have a track that's so small that not all of the cars can be on it at the same time, and this isn't like a local yokel place where you're on a local 73.7 TV. This is Fox. This is Fox, not even Fox Sports. This is Fox, the main channel. This is broadcast. It generated 3.5 million viewers, which for a Saturday night isn't bad. Especially when you're running opposition of the Pro Bowl. Granted, no one really cares, but football fans outnumber NASCAR fans by quite a bit. I think the race should have been 250 laps with 2 breaks. I'm sorry, but a 37.5-mile long race that clocks in at 57 minutes and 39 seconds is way too short. Again, this is on prime time. This is close to prime time on a Sunday. Outside of the Pro Bowl, there really wasn't any competition. Now, I think the heat race format was way too short. I think they should have lasted. If you can run 75 laps, why not have each of the heat races be 75 laps? And it would have been great for drawing people in and selling more ads, which is, kind of the point of doing this on television. Now, I will say that besides that, I did like qualifying, and I thought it was well thought out, and I liked the approach. 9 cars per heat race, top 4 make the Clash. There were also 2 last chance races where the top 3 of each race makes the field. Now, we did have a little bit of controversy with Ty Dillon, who he was disqualified after NASCAR determined he jumped the final restart, and given the video footage I've seen, I can't say I disagree with that. But I digress. This was the first real showing of the Gen 7 cars, and I thought they actually looked pretty good. I think the cars seemed to work well. Again, there's always room to be done. And above all else, the drivers seemed to like it, which is a good thing. I did think the event did suffer because of a lack of pit stops. It just... The gains and losses during cautions and pit stops, it does add to the ebb and flow of the race. And I think that overall, the race did suffer because of it. It's that additional excitement that just wasn't there. And you couldn't have made it there because of the space limitations. Now, I was also thinking about the Coliseum as a whole, and it dawned on me, this might be a test bed to see if shorter tracks might work. Like maybe they're thinking of going to, I don't know, maybe Bowman Gray, which might not be the biggest track in the world. I don't know that much about Bowman Gray, to be honest with you. But it isn't Talladega. And there's a lot of short track ovals across the country. Many of them are NASCAR, have some form of partnership with NASCAR. Now, again, I'm not a short track fan, but I liked this idea because it worked well in SRX. And I also think that we also might want to save this as a future thing for the All-Star race, where we pick a shorter track and have the All-Star race there where NASCAR doesn't normally race at, which I think would be good. Now we have the final thing that I've been wondering. I mean, you had a few crashes during the event. Okay, it happens. But now you've got the teams that are driving back, as I'm recording this, to North Carolina. Then they're going to go down to Daytona. Now, Daytona is an 8-hour drive, give or take, from Charlotte. So it's easier to get parts and fix cars than it would be at the Clash. But I'm willing to see how this is going to work in earnest when the season start up, especially Speed Weeks, because there's a well-known Gen 7 car shortage because you're sort of building these from the ground up over the course of a few months. So you've got a number of teams that might not even have the capacity to have a backup car. And between practice, qualifying, and the 125 races, there's plenty of opportunities to mess your car up. So I'll be interested to see how teams handle it, because I know something's going to happen. It's just a foregone conclusion. And of course, we'll get our first taste of a full race with the Daytona 500. I'll be interested. That's really one that's going to generate a lot of interest, because this is going to be an interesting set of Speed Weeks. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm working on a few things in terms of content for this channel. I'm a one-person operation, so I'm not as able to... What's the word I'm looking for here? So I'm not as able to be... So I can't get as much work done as if I was working with a team of people. So I've got like 2 or 3 things that I'm working on in terms of research. We're definitely going to do the driver suit being ad-friendly thing next week. And I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do, and I'll think of something probably later this week as I'm taping this on Monday. But I'll see you on Friday. I'm Dave Farson. Leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will see you here on Driver Suit Blog Radio next week.